All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have people joining from all over the world today. I want to welcome you to the first of a series of hybrid work environment webinars. Today's topic is mastering shared spaces. We will drop a link in the comments today for the future webinars that we're holding on hybrid work. My name is Lisa Skydebor-Schuler, and I work with Kensington as their marketing manager for the ergonomic category, as well as working on this hybrid project. We will take you through a very quick 30-minute webinar, so listen closely. It's a lot of information to grab. But today's agenda that we'll be covering today is going to be actually going through some of the industry trends that we're seeing, as well as some of the changes that we're seeing in the workplace, and then going into some of the biggest challenges that we're seeing and how you can solve them through clean workspaces and giving employees peace of mind, universal compatibility as people come back into the office and the desks may not be the same. And then if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat during the webinar and we'll address those at the end. There will also be an email address at the end that you can always email us if you have additional questions after the webinar today. So some of the changes in the workplace that we're seeing today is really going forward into that hot desking and hybrid situation. And so looking at some of the investment level from the executive level space is that we used to be in a lot of very dedicated single user spaces. Looking forward to the future, during and post-pandemic times, 45% of people are planning to increase their investments in unassigned seating, and 73%, that's a large percentage, of senior level global executives said that flexible office will definitely be a part of their long-term real estate strategy. So this is not just a temporary fix. This is something that is here to stay and really truly is the future of the workspace. So in order to get true industry insight here, I'm going to invite a couple of our reps to the stage that also work with Kensington. So if we have Susan, Dan, and Robert that are able to just give a little bit of information about what they're seeing in the market as they're talking to our customers and working through challenges. So Susan, if you want to go first, and then Dan, and then Robert.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you can see me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
And see me, I assume? Hi, everyone. So yeah, hybrid work environment. So interesting story. At 7:30 this morning, kind of poetic with what we're doing here today. A very, very large customer that everybody would know actually reached out to me and said, we are providing a hybrid workspace for our employees. The only thing that we are going to supply is the laptop and a headset. And we need you to put together a package of goods for us with a keyboard, a mouse, and all the other the risers and everything. We don't sell monitors, but they're going to be giving them not giving them monitors, and they need this by pretty much end of business today. In my travels, I cover the whole East Coast. I've pulled probably in the last month and a half, probably 25 to 35 companies, and the consistent message across the board, 100%, is they're never going back to a full-time in the office scenario. To include the customer that I spoke with this morning, which they were back in the office and now they're going backwards. They're going to go back to a hybrid. As luck would have it, this morning, a big article came to me in my email, and it basically said that the number one requirement for people looking for a job today is it has to be a hybrid work environment. Nobody wants to go back to the 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 in the office anymore for a lot of reasons that you can get into. At 5 o'clock, you want to be able to take your kid to soccer practice, and you've been helping out in the house. And now if you had to go to the office, somebody else would have to do that job. Another interesting fact that you don't think about, but animals, a lot of people adopted animals during this time, and they need to be walked and they need to be cared for. Well, if you're doing a 2-hour commute, an hour back and an hour forth, who's taking care of that task? So it's things that we don't even, intrinsic things we don't think about. I have a CFO of a very large company that in this last year her working at home, she's gotten off of all her medications from high blood pressure to everything because she doesn't have 50 interruptions in the course of a day sitting in her office. So this trend is here to stay. I don't think that our world will go back to a full in the office requirement, and that's basically from my input. That's what I'm seeing throughout the whole East Coast.
Thanks, Susan. We'll go over to Dan if you don't mind.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Lisa. I think from my perspective, we've been dealing with a lot of discussions around the needs of different types of customers for a year now. Some were very much ahead of the curve, anticipating some sort of a hybrid environment and the needs around that. And I'll throw out there the company like Ford that was talking about, we really need to supply our employees with a kit of products that would be theirs. They would bring them, they would use them at home, they would bring them to an office environment, they would set up in a flexible workspace, but then they would pack it all up and they would leave with it. So they own the responsibility for cleaning it, for using it appropriately, and then that shared workspace is really left empty. Other companies have looked at offering a little bit more guidance on what they should be using in that space. But I think some of the common denominators are they want the products to be usable, meaning universal for everyone to be able to use, so they don't have 5, 6 different flavors of different products. They want it to be flexible, meaning they want it to be mobile. They want it to be able to be very functional in both environments. And they want it to be, they want to know that they can clean it. That has come up as of recent with a lot of discussions around, here are our solvents that we use. Can your products be cleaned? We've heard reports of certain solvents wiping the letters and the numbers off keyboards. So to be able to go to a company and say, products will work just fine with your cleaning protocol, and then talking to them about the needs of their actual use case, who's going to be, how many people, what type of environments are they moving between. That's where I think we've been very resourceful and very useful to a lot of these companies. And the discussion continues. A lot of companies are trying to figure out, and what they like to hear are success stories from other companies. This is what this company did, and it worked out very, very well for them, so that they can kind of collectively take that and figure out the solution for themselves.
That's great advice, Dan. Robert, are you available to come to the stage for some insight as well?
I think so. I think I've got it figured out. Can you hear me now?
We can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm the same scenario for me, obviously, and I'm hearing the same discussions. Much like Susan just said, I heard first thing this morning. I'm actually in Texas this week, and first thing this morning, I heard from a very large customer, and they're looking to deploy kits to their employees, and they were asking me about mobile keyboards, something that they can put together, that's a big thing that a lot of customers are looking at, which is a keyboard and a mouse and other devices that are permanently for that employee, not something that's shared. And so in this case, of course, we do have that. But again, they're looking for recommendations, just generically what we're seeing in the industry, what we can and cannot provide. We don't provide cleaning services, obviously. Kensington does not. But we are working constantly with our customers to come up with, options. And we all know that keyboards and mice and input devices in general tend to be very personalized. It's something, you put your hand on a mouse or a keyboard and say, oh, I love this. And somebody else might say, it's not my favorite. So it's really coming up with options. And just as Dan said, all things that can be cleaned and how we. It's very common, and it's something we're doing. I heard the acronym last week for the first time, which is RTO, the whole return to office. So a lot of customers, every customer we're dealing with is coming up with their RTO plan, right? Return to office plan. All basically the same, but all slightly different. But it involves, again, we all know the word now, hybrid workers and coming and going, whether it's a permanent hoteling workspace that they're going to share in and out 2 or 3 days a week. But to some extent, they're looking for really guidance and recommendations for these products, and that's something that we can certainly help with.
Great. Thank you, Robert. And thanks to Susan and Dan as well. As you heard from them, we're certainly here to help as you enter into that RTO plan. There's so many acronyms out there, but we are certainly here to help. So as they mentioned, some of the things to consider is what space you do have available currently, or if you are looking to move to a new space. We certainly want to be able to help you through that process and determine that equipment that would go into that space. Really think about how much focus versus collaboration is happening. We've all been working at home most recently, and as we return to the office, people are excited to be social, but trying to understand what the expectation is in those shared spaces of having a set collaboration space versus those personal workspaces where a lot of focus is actually needed. The mix of devices as people have upgraded or are coming into the environment where they do not have a set workstation is something we'll be talking about more in a few minutes. And then something to accommodate special requester needs from an ergo perspective or maybe accessibility. You need to figure out how to work those people into your grid as well. And then cleaning protocols, like Dan mentioned, are certainly important and on people's top of mind as they return to office. And then lastly, as a couple of them mentioned, having those work from anywhere, or WFA, another acronym, equipment options available for people that are coming and going from work, or maybe they don't have a desk available to them because the ratio of desks to people is too little or too much there. And so here's an example of a work from anywhere kit. We have several different laptop risers available. This shows the Easy Riser laptop riser, as well as a small form factor keyboard with no number pad, and then a SureTrack mouse. All of these can fit easily into your backpack or briefcase, so you can take them to and from the office, and then you can accessorize them with additional ergonomic comfort items such as a wrist rest for your keyboard and mouse, or a headset, or other items for your chair like a backrest or seat cushion as needed when you're working in these shared space or cafes or work from anywhere type solutions. And so let's go into the cleanliness of the office equipment as far as what people are considering as they go into that space. And so as people return to office, they are highly concerned with the bacteria that does sit on our actual workstations. And so we want to make sure that we're equipping people with the knowledge and understanding of what you can or cannot wipe down on their desktop, as all of those germs or bacteria or all of those different pieces surface on our desktop. And so Kensington has come up with a few different solutions for you to consider that are either washable, as we have a washable keyboard and mouse, so you can literally keep the equipment plugged in and wash it down with a wet wipe or soap and water. And then we also have wipeable products that come into the mice and keyboards, into the wrist rest, and then into our keyboard cases. There's tons of blogs and information on kensington.com about what specific cleaners you can use on them. But for an example, it would be common cleaners like Lysol or Clorox, or bleach, alcohol, those types of things that are very well known to kill a lot of the bacteria that sits on our desktops. And then an exciting product that is available in Europe already, if you are listening in from there, and coming soon to the US, is the UVC light sanitation monitor stand. And so basically what that is going to do for your desktop space is all of those items that you can't wipe down, but you want to have peace of mind, that are clean and sanitized for each day or each user as they come through. You can actually set multiple items inside this monitor stand at the same time and simply press a button and it goes through a cycle and it sanitizes everything inside there. And I can tell you, it's not like some of the smaller ones you've seen on the market where you can just fit your phone in there. You could fit a lot of different items in there all at once to give yourself that full cleaning peace of mind if you're not able to wash or wipe down those products that are there. And I'll pass this over to Matt as he comes to the stage to talk a little bit more about universal compatibility in the shared workspaces.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and attention here. If we can jump to the next slide here. Um, so basically, as Lisa mentioned earlier, we're seeing a shift from knowledge workers having dedicated desks or workspaces to working in a more flexible shared work environment. If you think about it, this has been in the works for some time now. We don't work in the same places or the same spaces that we did in the past. Pre-pandemic, I'd read this study that was conducted that basically said that at any given time, 80% of a company's workforce were physically in the office. The other 20%, those folks were out traveling to visit clients or vendors. They were working from home, working from a Starbucks or a coffee shop, or were just out on PTO or were sick. But think about it, if a company can reduce their office footprint by 20%, that really could translate to a pretty significant savings and has an impact on the organization's bottom line. So how do we get there, right? By implementing strategies like hoteling or hot desking that helps that company achieve that smaller footprint. Hoteling and hot desking, these are both terms or buzzwords that we've heard thrown around in recent times, and they support the return to the office, or RTO, as Robert had mentioned earlier. Sometimes I hear these terms used interchangeably, but really they are different. So I think the easy way that I remember this is that with a hoteling style configuration, an employee is reserving a workspace, much like they would reserve a hotel room. With hot desking, an employee can come in and pick any open desk. Maybe in the morning, they're sitting with somebody in finance to collaborate and help crunch numbers for a business proposal. But in the afternoon, they move to a different area to work with maybe another group, or they try to sit away from another or from a group of other people so that way they can focus. In that hot desking environment, you have that flexibility to sit wherever you feel like. But with the shared workspaces comes some technical challenges, of course. With a variety of devices in use in an organization, tying all of the technology together so that employees can be productive with the tools they are given can sometimes be a bit challenging, especially when you're setting up a shared workspace. So Kensington conducted a research study a while back to hear from IT managers about what they face when deploying docking stations. And based on their feedback, we were able to identify the top 5 challenges they encounter with docking stations. And what we learned is that the biggest concerns really had to do with compatibility and then training the users on using and working with the gear that they're provided to perform their tasks. I think to break things down a little bit further, there's really 3 big pain points that IT buyers are contending with. And what we see those being are confusion, managing future upgrades, and managing different devices within an environment. So when we look at emerging technologies, we all see that USB-C has really taken over the industry as the common USB standard, but not all USB-C ports are made equal. Some ports are simply data only. Others support Thunderbolt 3 or even the Thunderbolt 4 superset. So the port, it visually stays the same. It's an oval shape. You know that it doesn't matter which way you plug in the cable, but because it looks the same, it feels the same, but it doesn't do the same thing. That creates confusion in the space. So in order to make an informed purchase, IT buyers need to know what the USB-C port is capable of doing so that the right docking solution is selected. The second pain point IT buyers contend with are future upgrades. So if I buy a dock now to accompany the laptops I'm deploying today, is it going to work with the laptops I buy in the future? A lot of companies still have perfectly good laptops that are not equipped with USB-C technology. They're still using USB-A connectivity. But as hardware refreshes come along, chances are pretty good that the new device being deployed will be equipped with some form of USB-C technology. So planning for these future upgrades and taking the latest technologies into consideration can really pay off in the long run by not having to replace those docking stations for 2, maybe even 3 refresh cycles. And that leads into point number 3, or pain point number 3, supporting different devices. When we look at the landscape of devices in an organization, 81% of organizations support more than one laptop brand in their computing environment. I talk to several customers day in and day out, and I see this with virtually every customer that I speak with or that I visit. And here at Kensington, we're no different. Our marketing teams run Macs. Some users have Dell laptops. Others have HP devices. And we even have users running Surface Pro. So it's really this mixed bag of technology. So when we're in a shared workspace environment, how would you be able to support any user that sits down at any desk, regardless of the hardware that they have or the hardware that they're connecting? So in Kensington's docking station lineup, we have a variety of hybrid solutions to fit just about any shared workspace scenario. Do you have Lenovo laptops? No problem. HP, we've got you covered. Mac, Surface, across the board, we have universal solutions that would fit all of these different scenarios. So what we really try to do is we want to remove that compatibility complexity so that workers can focus on being productive with the tasks they're assigned instead of fighting with their technology to do their job. Our hybrid docking stations are broken up into really two categories. We have Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C compatible solutions and USB-C and USB-A compatible docks. With our Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C solutions, these docking stations typically will use an Intel Titan Ridge chipset, which allows them to be cross-compatible with both Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C host laptops. When connected to a Thunderbolt 3 host, the docks will perform at Thunderbolt speeds of up to 40 gigabits per second. They'll drive dual 4K 60 hertz displays. If the host device has a full function USB-C port without Thunderbolt technology, data speeds drop down to 5 or 10 gigabits per second, depending on the host device, of course. But they'll support dual 1080p displays or a single 4K display. This really just has to do with the lower bandwidth available on a USB-C connection versus over a Thunderbolt connection. But with these solutions, they'll provide power delivery to the host laptop to also keep them charged while connected. When we look at our USB-A or USB-C and USB-A compatible docks, these are a little bit different. These solutions are driver-based and they use a DisplayLink video technology to support the functionality of the solution. Basic models will support dual 1080p displays and 5 gigabit data throughput, while our higher end solutions are capable of driving 4K displays and can support data speeds up to 10 gigabits per second. We also have a triple 4K solution in our lineup that blends USB-C and DisplayLink technology to drive 3 external displays when connected to a host laptop that has a full function USB-C port. When connected to a USB-A host, these docking stations will support data and video, but they don't provide power delivery to the laptop, so a separate power supply would be needed to use for charging. Otherwise, if the USB-C port does accept power delivery, the docking stations in this line would be able to charge the laptop. So for easy reference, we have this chart available that it kind of showcases our lineups of our hybrid docking stations. And on the left-hand side, we have our first two models, which are compatible with both Thunderbolt 3 and USB-C host devices. These are going to be driverless, simple plug-and-play connectivity. The next 4 models to the right side here, those are solutions that are compatible with both USB-C and USB-A host devices, and they're going to use that DisplayLink driver technology to function. Additional details on these docking stations, of course, are available on our website at kensington.com, so you can check out all of the specs there and look at the details on those solutions. You know, universal hybrid docking stations, they really fit a wide variety of environments, and they're the ideal solution for a shared workspace. They work with all OEM devices and support many different types of host technology, ultimately future-proofing offices too. So should you have any questions about our hybrid docking station lineup or need help in finding the best solution, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me. I've got a real super easy email address to remember. It's docguy@kensington.com, or feel free to email us at sales@kensington.com.
Thank you all so much for all the wonderful, insightful hybrid and mastering shared workspaces information. And now we'll open it up to some questions if anyone has any available in the chat.
And just a reminder too that we do have the files in the meeting chat. One of them is on all of the clean products that I had mentioned. And then there's also an infographic available talking about these same challenges that we talked about today. And it also gives you a peek into the future challenges that we'll be going over in future webinars. And then if Cole can drop in the registration link if you are interested. Oh, perfect timing, of any of the future webinars that we'll be hosting. It will be each week in the future at the same time. So we look forward to seeing you there, but would love to hear any questions that you have. And I think there's one more slide that just shows our email addresses as well. If you do have any questions after today, we would be happy to answer those as well. But tons of great information at kensington.com. We're constantly putting out new blogs around a lot of the topics that we talked about today, as well as coming out with new products and some of the research-oriented white papers too. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at the email addresses listed. Otherwise, we hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you on the future webinars for hybrid working.